There we go. Susan, we are live. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Sam. It's lovely to connect with you.
It's amazing to connect with you as well. So I've heard a lot about you through our mutual friend, Natalie, who obviously works with me inside of my business.
Yeah.
Just taught me all about your crazy experience, but also the knowledge you've got on a lot of topics that we're going to discuss today. So the first boring podcasty question that I always ask everyone: who are you? How do you help people? What's your story?
So my name's Susan Universe. I've also got a spiritual name because I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher, which is quite new to me now, which is Govind Mahani. It's like a spiritual name, and it helps you work to your highest potential when you call upon that name. So I've got two names, and I am a healer. I help people one-to-one and also teach in groups as well, and circles, in ceremonies and things like that. And what was the other question?
How do you help people? Like, what's your...
So basically, the gift I've had through my own experiences is being able to connect to people on a truth level, like, you know, like I understand and there's no judgment. So through my experiences, I've got a gift of being able to do that, so people can just feel safe, you know, and worthy enough and not going to be judged. So I help people kind of like face their own truth and their own reality, and especially their shadows, and then they can heal. So I provide the kind of, you know, letting people break down in a safe space, on a safe level. And I think the gift of my experiences has helped us do that, because I've just seen like so many things that there's just no judgment there. And then I can help people slowly and surely and organically grow to their true potential, to their highest potential.
I love it. I absolutely love that. And we were chatting just off camera before, and even though myself and you would do completely different things to help people, it all leads to a different path, right? Helping people discover themselves.
Totally.
My statement is, you are limitless. My business is called Limitless Training. Become limitless. That means you are without limitations. You are without boundaries. You are free to express yourself, be yourself. And one part I use is almost called surrendering to yourself, and I'm sure you use that as well. For you to actually heal from whatever you've went through, to become who you want to become, we've got to drop this facade. We've got to take this mask off. We've got to connect with the subconscious self and the ego. And we've got to communicate together and allow them to be one. And you can only do that if you surrender, like you said, break down in a safe environment. Say, listen, this is what it is. Because most people are spending their whole life running away from pain, aren't they, Susan?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, to be honest as well, like to be limitless is to tap into your limitless potential, which is something other than what we've normally learned in life. Excuse me. So being limitless means you have to tap into what is limitless within you, you know. And normally we get to a point where shit's not working, is it? It's like, well, I've tried this, I've tried that, and I'm looking for pleasure, or I'm looking for distraction here, there, and everywhere. And then there's something else, and it's not touching the spot. For you, you'll be helping people using food as that modality. You know, I've like had every drug apart from heroin, you know, like being in all the places looking for excitement, which has ended up in trouble. And then thought, you know, I'm not satisfied at all. I'm not satisfied. There's a space in me that is like not, it's like a little thing. It just keeps wanting to be fed, you know.
Yeah, I call it a parasite, Susan. I really do.
Parasite, yeah. In Kundalini yoga,
like a parasite feeding off your light, off your.
Well, in Kundalini yoga, we are taught that, you know, from your positive mind and your neutral mind and your negative mind, which is your subconscious, which is the animal that wants feeding all the time, and the result of all your previous experiences. That must be cleared. It's like your subconscious junk must be cleared, because if that gets in there and that is leading your life, then your blood it has a parasite, and it's very hard to get rid of. Yeah. And it's like 70-80% of your body that is water, and that's where the parasite is from. So you have to have that breakdown. And I think, I mean, I don't know if you have had breakdowns. You probably have. You
absolutely have, Susan. Absolutely
have, yeah. So, you have to go through it. It's like one of them nursery rhymes. You can't go around it. You can't go over it. You can't go under it. You've got to go through it. And you do, don't you? And it's so essential for somebody to find somebody who's been through it themselves in order to believe that they can get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we can definitely stay on this topic, Susan. I can explain my, rock bottom period. You can explain yours.
I would love that.
And we can definitely draw comparisons. I generally feel when you are in that mindset, when you are like, I am broken, you can't heal from whatever it is, you've got that space inside you that's just an emotional void and you don't know how to get out of it. That's basically your subconscious screaming out for change. Yet the fear of judgment, the fear of failure, the fear of whatever previous traumas happening again keeps you stuck. It's like you're walking through custard. Yeah. And I reached a point in my life in 2018 where I can get into the bad habits that I had. I was struggling with the eating disorders myself at the time, maybe, negative body comparison, but I was also bored with my life. I was unfulfilled. I was taking my anger and frustration out on other people. I was attracting drama and negativity into my life because I was the drama and negativity. And I wasn't being creative enough. So I was struggling with panic attacks, anxiety, depression, and I didn't know why. And I remember I reached the point where I'm going to use my words carefully because I know suicidal thoughts can be where I was versus someone who actually does that. Totally different ball game. I was nowhere near as low as someone who unfortunately makes the decision to end their own life. I was nowhere near that. Yet the thoughts were there. They were nagging away. I don't want to live like this. And I remember speaking about this. I think I might have mentioned to my partner, if there was a button I could have pressed that would have put me into a coma and I could wake up a year later and everything would be all right, that's where I was. I was lost. I was hopeless. Yeah. And I reached that rock bottom point where after the worst panic attack of my life, thought I was going to die. I thought, I've got to get out. I left the house at 4 a.m. It was pissing down. I think it's called pathetic fallacy, right? When your environment is basically reflecting in your mood. It was pissing down. There was almost thunder and lightning going on. It was like a scene from a fucking movie. It was insane. And I reached this point when I was like, I'm not coming back. I'm going out. And I don't know what I was going to do, but I'd made the decision I can't live like this. And on that walk, that's when I basically had the breakdown. I was just like, what am I doing? There's some terrible things in my life. I was abusing drugs at the time. I wasn't treating my partner right. I was totally disconnected from my personal relationships, even with my parents and my friends. I was isolating myself. I was doing nothing with my life. I wasn't focusing on what I wanted to focus on. I was trying to please everyone else and fit in and impress people and use my body for validation and attention. I was just doing all the wrong things. And that was the anxiety. The subconscious was screaming out, was communicating with me, but I had put up such a wall. The ego was blocking it so much, I couldn't understand it. So the panic attacks were there to remind us, hey, you're not being true to your authentic self. And when I realized this, nobody taught me this. I just come up with it myself. And when I've done a bit of research on this kind of way of thinking, it's the same story over and over again with every single person who's had this epiphany. And you cannot change until you change. It doesn't matter what therapy you go through, what medication you take, it doesn't matter what help you get. If you do not connect the subconscious with the authentic self and go, right, what am I doing? It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility to figure out, because it's all pre-programmed learned behaviors. And once I reached that, I was like, I'm not creating enough. I'm not living by my values. I am not being very nice to people because I've got this deep self-hatred of myself. And when I started to challenge those perceptions, that's when life got better. So I always say this to my clients. If you think you're at rock bottom, but then you don't take action on yourself, you're not at rock bottom yet. You've still got some falling to do. So that was my experience with it, and I guarantee things I've said there, you resonate with that, even though it's probably different circumstances. The same feelings, the epiphany, the awakening, everyone has to go through that in life. Otherwise, they stay stuck in their subconscious programming. Yeah,
many times. And thank you for sharing that. I really feel like I can connect with you on a deeper level for sharing that, so thank you. For me, I would say the subconscious, this is just in my Kundalini yoga teachings, which is like, it's not yoga, it's like the yoga of awareness, which brings you to a deeper experience of yourself. It's spiritual, right? And I would say what was happening, and I'm talking from my experience, is not the subconscious that is screaming. The subconscious is just a setting of, you will live according to these experiences that have happened.
Yeah, maybe it was my conscious screaming. Yeah, it was that. I should have used that.
It is, in my personal experience, is it's your soul.
Yeah. in an authentic
it's
self.
cool. You know, the panic attacks for me, right? It's like that, like knock, 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 knock. And if you're letting your subconscious feed you, which is your animal part of you, which never ever is full, it's always going to be like an animal. It always needs feeding. It's like you're just your junk, like absolute junk of like your previous experiences, and it'll never be fulfilled. And in Kundalini Yoga, we clear the subconscious, and honestly, it can bring you this simple little meditation, right? If you do it for 40 days, I did it on my training, and honestly, it brought me literally to my knees just doing this little simple thing every day for 40 days. I was like, to take away again, but I knew, because I was aware of what I was doing, and I was aware in the here and now, which is the only way for me now. And it doesn't mean I live like that all the bloody time. I'm a mum. I've got 2 kids. One's a teenager who says fuck a lot. He's already smoked dope. He's got in trouble. I don't know how much. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's my karma, though. He's my mirror. Like, he brings out me anger, and he brings out
part of you, right?
I could say, oh yeah, he lets me teach forgiveness and patience, but he's me mirror, and he's me karma kid, like me oldest one. And I've got him, and I've got another son who is going into teenage. I've got a wife. I've got lots of animals. You know what I mean? I've got lots of practicals to get going with, and like, you know, doing this little meditation, honestly, man, it was just, it blew us away. Like, I mean, I should do it again, actually. I really liked it. And anyway, you just sit there like doing Sata Nama, and you've got to like do it in a sequence. And it's the most gorgeous thing, but honestly, it can bring out physical pain because you're literally clearing your subconscious. So going back to what I was saying about your story, which was like beautiful, by the way, like it's a lovely story. And like you said, it was like a scene of a movie. Yeah. It was, because it was
at the time. I was petrified at the time.
But now,
I had to go through that. I am so grateful for that, Susan.
Absolutely. And it was the scene of a movie, because it was your movie experience. It was like you were moving in this. And at the time, then you've experienced terror, desperation, being totally lost at sea, if you like. You want, you know, using that metaphor. And it's your soul that took you, from my perspective anyway, that took you there, and was like screaming out to say, like, this is it. And I was talking to a client the other day, and a dear friend as well. And she came out because she's been on her journey, as we all do. And it was something so beautiful she said. And I was like, oh, what a lovely reminder. It wasn't even me who actually suggested it, was her, which is great, because I'm sure you'll agree your clients teach you more than you teach them sometimes. You know, when
teachers, yeah.
Exactly.
I wouldn't even know what to talk about unless they shared their problems with me. I wouldn't even know what to talk about.
It's like being plugged into the like holy friggin' network, isn't it? You know what I mean? It gives you purpose for living. So she was like, well, your pain is your total power, because you don't have to put up with the pain. We're here to change the pain, but your pain is like your absolute power. But if you don't go there, you can't fulfill your true change. You can only, like, you know, band-aid job it, you know what I mean? So she was like, where your pain is your power. And then we change it, because we'll go there and we'll like be with it. And then we'll look for some hand, because we can't do it alone, right? You know that, don't you? Of course you do. And that's where the alchemy is. You're changing it into your power. But also, I'm a big believer in not just resting in karma, like, oh, it's karma. Do you know what I mean? Like, victim, like, oh, it's just karma, you know, like me mom, me dad, whatever. But there is something about us being this cluster of cells who were like carried in our mother's womb, who kind of fed off her energy. We're just energy, right? So we're fed off her, then we were born, and then we had this like karma. Basically, she had hers and blah, blah, blah. And it goes along the line, and we don't understand it until we get to these points where anything we do will never fulfill us. And then the more we hide it, it's like a demon in your head going round and round and round. And yet I before I went to prison, when I was younger, I went out into the sea, which I love the sea. I believe, well, it is a conscious being of intelligence, and I went to the sea off me absolute rocker, right, after an argument with my toxic boyfriend, off me rocker in the middle of the night, because I lived right across the road from the sea. I was a big drug dealer at the time. I mean, not a little drug dealer. It was quite big operations going on. I was way out my head, and I thought, my ego thought it was obviously cool. I was looking for a tribe. It was dangerous. And I was out of it on coke. I'd been like, oh, God knows how many days. I can't even, it's just a blur.
Yeah.
And I just went to the Rocks, where I used to always go. It's a dead secret place. It's actually like fenced up now. You can't go there. It's too dangerous. And but this is like 23 years ago. There's my wife just walking past. And went there, as I always do, and I didn't believe in anything at the time. And I actually remember having a drug-fueled conversation with one of my best friends at the time, saying, like, I don't believe in God. Like, why would God believe? Like, why would I even believe there was something like that was going to be helping us? Because I wouldn't be living this life if it was for him or her or whatever. Like that biblical kind of.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense to me at all. Still,
I don't believe in that either, but I believe in a higher power.
Exactly, right. So at the time, this biblical Sunday school shite, I was like, no way. So I went down to these Rocks, and it was just a big blur. And I just remember like screaming out to the nothingness, to the black.
Yeah.
On these rocks, and then before I knew it, I was like getting pulled under in the water. So I didn't remember walking towards the sea. So that was one of my moments of just like complete surrender. And I was like screaming for help into the black, very similar to you. I'm sure it was raining, but I couldn't even recall because I was absolutely high. Incredible. And I just found myself like I'd swallowed water, and that brought us back. Yep. And then it was like I had this soul split decision, either just stop and just let the sea take you and become part of whatever you came from, or kick now. So I just started flapping around. I got back through the rocks. I mean, these are rocky rocks, like, you know what I mean? Like, and anyway, climbed back onto this thing like a drowned rat. I just remember heaving and like just absolute fucking despair, And I had been asking for something to help us, right? And this was in 1999, just before this huge, I don't know how old you are. It was 1999. There was this massive eclipse. I was
5 in 1999, and I can remember that eclipse.
Right. So it's like one of those moments, isn't it? And I watched it, and then I was going on this was about 2 weeks later. So that happened 2 weeks before the eclipse. And I'd asked for help. I'd screamed. I'd given up my whole, like, it was like that part of grief where you just into the whole bargaining thing, like surrender, bargain, I'll do whatever you want kind of thing. And I'd made a choice, hadn't I? I mean, I didn't realize this at the time. This is in reflection after years and years and years of making more mistakes. And to me, that is what happened. Like, I literally put me on the chopping block and said, yeah, take, what am I doing? I didn't want to live. I didn't want the lifestyle. It was like massive amounts of drugs involved, like really dangerous. I was paranoid. I was just like a mess, like absolute mess. I come from like a very broken family. So I just went looking for somewhere I could belong with that subconscious feeling inside of us, which is terror or disconnection, become an addict, and a high class drug dealer, basically. So anyways, a couple of weeks later, after this moment, on my own, with the universe, right? Which is why I've changed my name to the universe, because I just talk about the universe all the time. And we were going on a drug run, right? There was a few of us, and it was a usual thing, normally once a month. Meeting people in Malaga from Morocco, and it was like a network thing, right? And this time it was the day of the eclipse. That was I watched myself near where I was give myself to God, or whatever you call it, the universe or the higher power, right? I watched an eclipse, went home and just packed my stuff and never returned. I like never came back for a couple of years. And I believe, I mean, I don't know, I've talked a lot on that, but I believe that was my asking for help. You know what I mean? That was because I didn't believe anyone else could help us, because I'd been let down so many times with family and friends, and, you know, I'd toxic relationship with myself, self-loathing, all that, which I'm sure you'll help a lot of people with. And I just ended up getting arrested on a drug run, basically, and I got taken away from everything, which was amazing. And I one of my dreams that I'm working towards in the next, say, 5 years is to do a retreat because I do work retreats and events. Like, I can be hired to take part for a group of people, or I can do my own. And one of my dreams is to do my own, called Freehab, right? So I've just said that out loud online, so I've put that out there. And it's called Freehab for people who need freedom rehabilitation, because people fuck up with their freedom all the time. And I ended up actually behind bars because of that. So it's such a great fucking story, isn't it, really? But also it's an amazing thing that I can do once I am fully healed, to be able, because I've done so much work on myself. I mean, that's what you do, don't you? And then you can help it. I call it turning karma into dharma. And to take the greatest thing for me experience was that not at the time, like you said, but now looking back, is to take everything away from you. Like, take your identity, what you think your identity is, take it all away. Your relationships, your kids, you know what I mean? Like, in a safe place, like you're not getting locked up. You're walking into it yourself. Take it. We're all like the same, like, you know, and doing certain practices to bring you back to that point of who you really are, and whatever that is for your experience. Oh, my dogs are in. But that's one of my dreams. Maybe when I'm less busy in the house, to be able to have an environment where you're just stripped of everything, but you're willingly doing it. Like, it's your choice, you know what I mean? It's not like getting banned up abroad. But that is, you know, me as a 45-year-old woman who's done a lot of work on herself and can help others, is a dream that I wish for, because it absolutely does bring you to a deeper experience of yourself.
Wow, amazing. Oh, what a great story. I can certainly resonate with things that you said there. You touched on an awesome point there that I want to go over again. The question that we are asking ourselves all the time is, who am I? Why do I feel the way that I do? We're trying to connect with something, right? But because we are suppressing the subconscious, the previous traumas, the programmed behaviors, the things that we don't like about ourselves, essentially the shame. I'm listening to an awesome book at the minute called Why Good People Do Bad Things by Debbie Ford. I'm not sure if you've listened to it.
Right.
It's all about the masks that we put on to hide our shame, to hide from the world who we really are. Sorry.
Why good people do?
Yeah, Why Good People Do Bad Things by Debbie Ford. It's incredible.
I just wrote it down.
It's what I'm learning at the minute a little bit, and because I want to do a bit more work on myself, and I'm trying to figure it out. But you mentioned before, you're trying to figure out who you are. You need to strip away things, right? It's hard to answer that question of who am I, because we're hiding behind multiple masks from previous traumas. Here's the thing, what I figured out, Susan, you might not be able to figure out who you are, but you can absolutely figure out who you are not. You can look at what parts of yourself you are not. So I figured out who I was, and I'll still do it in the future by revealing who I'm not. You just have to have the balls, essentially, the courage, the honesty, the integrity.
The vagina.
Look at the mirror. to look at the mirror and have the honesty to say, I don't like that about myself. Don't blame yourself, but work on it, because understand it's been placed in you from a previous trauma, from someone else, a toxic relationship, a learned behavior. And I realized a lot of the things that I had, it wasn't my fault. So for me to forgive everyone else for all these things, these negative thoughts that I had to forgive myself and say, you know what, I've made mistakes. I've hurt people. I've abused people. I've been nasty to people. I've done the wrong things. I've manipulated people. I've judged people. But that was just a mirror of me judging myself. So I have to forgive myself because these behaviors, these learned pre-programmed things, it wasn't my fault. It was just the way it was. And for me to reveal who I really am, let's reveal who I'm not. So my advice to anyone out there is do what you do what you said, create a safe space, and then just go through yourself like an audit. Like when you buy a new house, right, you do a home audit. You're like, right, what parts of the house do I want to keep? What do I not like? I don't like that wallpaper. I don't like that carpet. Let's knock that wall down and create this. Do that of your own life. Do an inventory and be fucking honest with yourself.
Totally.
Until you do that, you'll never change your mental health. Never. Because you'll always be behind a mask that you're ashamed of. And shame is the thing that cripples us. Shame is like the lowest, the vibrational emotion chart. Absolutely. I'm pretty sure, what's it called again? The enlightenment's at the top when we're talking about
this. Human guilt is the bottom. Yeah. So I always like to say in my circles that shame dies when stories are told in safe places. And it's not, I didn't make that up. I read that from somewhere else, but shame will die when your story is told in a safe place. So whether it be in a one-to-one, but also groups are so powerful because the connection together, everyone's actually bringing a gift of themselves to witness the other and then realize that it's okay. And then also witness those others and realize like, oh, actually, like I'll take my life, I'll take it. I don't want that. This is mine. And then you can work, then you can do some work. And it takes ages, doesn't it? I mean, I think everything's a life's work. Anyway, my personal thing about what you're saying, I'll just bring up because I love truth, and I love being in rooms of truth. Like,
I am a seeker of the truth. That's me. I'm a seeker of the truth. Even if it hurts us, even if it destroys us. I recently destroyed myself this year because I realized I was doing something I didn't want to do and I was lying to myself. And I had to call myself out. And I had 3 months that anxiety was coming back in again. Susan, sorry, by the way, I'm just rolling with it.
No, that's okay.
My flaws. I interrupt people. I'm sorry.
All right.
I was feeling anxious.
It's your passion.
Yeah, I was feeling anxious again in the nighttime, but the difference this time, I knew exactly why it was there, so it did not scare me. And I realized the growth was in the discomfort. That anxiety's gone away now because I kind of reinvented myself again.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And as I say, like it's not like we aren't machines. We're energetic buildups on such different levels. In Kundalini yoga, we teach that we'll have 10 bodies. So we'll have the physical body, we'll have the radiant body, the emotional body, the auric body. We'll have so many bodies and in so many subtle levels that we need to tap into an intelligence greater. Call it the divine. I love that word, the divine.
Yes.
Call it the divine. Of who are you? Are you this? Are you that? No, you're neither. This is called the neutral mind, and only through doing certain practices that have been like quite ancient, really, you can clear it up slowly but surely. But also, it's not like a one-stop shop, is it? This is a life's work. We are cyclical. We work in cycles and spirals, so we're not like linear. Healing is not linear. It is not linear at all, and we need to tap into that community, but which means just being commune in unity, just with others, so we can kill the shame, because the shame on the path of enlightenment, what you're talking about before the chart, I think that's how you described it, wasn't it? Is we're always going up and down it. Do you know what I mean? Like, because we've got to clear things up. We're literally, we can go from another thing that I think is a big trap is to think it's all down to just you, because that stops people connecting with other people, and it goes right back to what you talked about, shame. So going back to another part, what you were saying, like what you were just explaining there, I've done that to myself. Because I was drinking alcohol, and I've always had this love-hate relationship with alcohol. I mean, from like really hard drugs to like alcohol and tobacco and like anything really, you know, like you can be addicted to anything, can't you? But I started my Kundalini teacher training journey, and I don't know if you've ever been to a class or you know anything about it, but we wear white when we do it. We wear a turban or something, like a wrap on your head, and this is the tradition. But it's not just so you look cool. You do look really cool, but it's like the color is to expand your aura so that you can actually hold space for others while channeling into this massive power. Do you get what I mean? And then you wear this covering on your head because it keeps you grounded while you are channeling in this fucking like mass load of golden. We'll call it the golden chain, right? Anyway, so I was going into this teaching journey, and my recent who I'm not truth was like, hang on, like this was the 1st of September, and I was like, I'm going into this journey of holding space for others in my highest light, right? Govin Mahani, that's my highest being, my highest potential in myself. And I'm walking into this light, right? And I was like, Howe, that's not you anymore. Why are you going to drink a bottle of wine and then go and do that? That isn't, it's like, I don't know. I was like, that's not me now. Do you know what I mean? Sitting there feeling like, you know, it depends how you actually use the tool. Say I'm talking about alcohol, but I had to be really truthful. And actually I found it all right, actually. And, but then what I was doing is I would have like a rollie, right? And with like a menthol filter in the garden as part of having a drink, right? So I didn't realize I was doing this. Because I was like, well, I don't smoke. It's only like if I ever have alcohol, right? And then I realized that I was really affected by this addictive substance. Like a week later, I was like, fucking hell, going through like some kind of a withdrawal period, you know, like when you do cleanses and shit like that. Like, oh my God, I felt like my body was aching and stuff, and I didn't realize. So that was so sneaky of my subconscious to work this out, that everything was okay. So I did literally come to that. And also what I've realized as well is I know a lot of friends in recovery as well, which I have absolute respect and admiration for. And I have a wife who had a massive breakdown last year. She's like friends with Paul Watt, actually. And she had a massive breakdown last year. I mean, like, fuck, it was epic, right? I can say this, she's sitting over there. But she's a year on now. She hasn't touched alcohol. She hasn't smoked a cigarette. Like, she's done so much work on herself in a year. Like, she probably needs a breather. You know what I mean? Like a healthy one. But that's also inspiring to me. So I'm around that. I was around that. And that has to be like, we are sponges for energy. Do you know what I mean? We need to be around health, our health, don't we?
Yeah, awesome. This is really powerful stuff. We've actually got a comment on the Facebook here, which I think you can see on the screen, right? So I can't see who it is, unfortunately. I hope that name's not Facebook user. If they are, hello, Facebook user. You've got to
Hi.
So powerful. Thank you. The pain is the power. Surrendering is the greatest thing when you completely hit the bottom. Thank you for your words. I've also had that awakening moment on my healing journey. I trust that I needed to go through that to change and recover. So even if all the people who watch this on the live or the replay, they don't like what was said, Susan, they get triggered by it because some people aren't ready to hear this yet, at least we've impacted one person. So our job today has already been done. But yeah, of course, what you mentioned there about the healing and the connections to other people. I've got another awesome book for you. I mentioned on my last podcast, actually. Jonathan Hari called it Lost Connections, the root causes of anxiety and depression. What do people say when they talk about the root causes of depression? Straight away, they go to brain chemistry. Oh, it's a problem with my brain. That can be there. Can be. Absolutely, that's a root cause. But there's 9 root causes and only 2 of them are biological. The other 7 lack of connection to nature, lack of connection to identity, lack of connection from your previous trauma that you haven't healed, lack of connection to other people, isolating yourself, feeling lonely. All these connections that to the earth, to other people, being intimate, to a purpose. So many people's problem, I think my problem when I was depressed, I didn't have a purpose. I had nothing. So what was I doing? My subconscious was getting me to do things to distract myself from the fact that I didn't have a purpose. That's where the drugs come in, the sex, I was a bodybuilder. My basically I got myself into a stage of depression because I was comparing myself to other people that I didn't look. But that was my entire world. And when I actually broken that down, I realized I was just using my body as a distraction from the fact that I had no purpose. I didn't even know who I was. I was so disconnected from all those things. So that book is awesome. And
great.
Think about humans when we were first around 100,000 years ago, 200,000 years ago. Our survival was dependent on the tribe. We had to have the men, if you like, proper sexist this, but I'm going to roll with it. The men were out hunting woolly mammoths, right? And the women, members of the tribe, are looking after the children and managing the house. And then they come together and they all surrounded each other by the fire. They ate, they laughed, they shared, they reproduced, they spent time doing whatever it was that they done 2,000 years ago, 200,000 years ago rather, and they were safe because safety in numbers. Humans, if you look at our attributes, we're not actually that. In terms of the law of the jungle, we haven't really got the tools to equip for survival, but what we've got is very clever brains. We're able to create, innovate, make tools, safety in numbers. So it's implanted in our DNA that we have to have meaningful connections to other people to feel safe. Otherwise, if we don't, we are likely to get attacked by a saber-toothed tiger, trampled on by a mammoth. We're vulnerable. So in the modern day, we don't have saber-toothed tigers and mammoths coming in, tribes trying to kill us, but we still have the same brains. So if we are isolated from society, if we don't have meaningful connections, I don't just mean intimacy and sex. Intimacy is what we're doing right now, Susan, having an intimate conversation. That's the most form of intimacy. If you don't have that person who you can connect with, who you can share, who you can be vulnerable to, and your ego is not convincing you that you're broken and that you can't share and that people will judge you and that nobody cares, because that's what I was saying to myself when I was depressed. Nobody cares. It'd be better off without us. That was bullshit. Complete bullshit. That was my ego convincing me, because its whole job as the ego is to keep you stuck out of safety. It's got the wrong beliefs that if you just avoid pain, you'll be safe. But that's the animal brain getting you out of pain and into pleasure. That's all it wants to do. So you avoid, you distract, you disconnect from people. You won't meet people. You won't share things. You'll isolate yourself. I was spending 2-3 weeks in my room at a time watching Netflix, binge eating, not wanting to see anyone. That lack of connection to other people. I didn't find my tribe. So how could I find my vibe, if you like? Impossible. I was connected from my identity as a human being. So there's one root cause of depression that someone could look and go, oh my God, maybe there's nothing wrong with my brain. Maybe it's my disconnection in my actual life and my environment, and I have become a product of my environment. That gives you an option to build with, rather than sitting there going, my brain's broken and these pills are the only thing that's going to save us. That's not the case, I'm afraid. People will get triggered by what I've just said. If anyone wants to challenge me on that, I highly suggest listening to the work of Jonathan Hari, Lost Connections. All of the studies are provided in that. Yeah.
I would say it might not be a trigger. And if it is a trigger, it's just an opportunity to go into what our commenter said, our Facebook user, because we can't see the name, said.
Yeah.
Further into that pain and actually going there, and then it's back to turning it into the power, the alchemy. So it's always the tool. But disconnection, as I'm sure you know as well, in recovery, that's why addictions happen, because it's another
connected to the drugs. You're connected to the drugs because you're disconnected.
It's disconnection from each other. It's disconnection from love. It's disconnection from being loved or being worthy. It's actually not being. It's just receiving love. Like we've come up in these systems in society that make we feel less than, not worthy, disconnected, and we choose other ways in order for us to feel that funny feeling, which is literally just the hormone oxytocin, which is the love drug. And every soul in life somehow likes to get high, and the true high is love, right? It is just love. And so just going back to certain things on my personal journey, coming to the places of trying this, trying that, and trying the other until the point of near death, really, and realizing there's still this gaping hole that it needs feeding constantly, and you're not feeling content or satisfaction, and you're probably more disconnected and more messed up than you were before you started on that journey. that is when you connect to something greater, and that is the source that is all in every single one of us as well. So it's like that two-way thing. You can't just be like, oh, I'm just doing all this, is me, I'm doing all this on my own.
Yeah.
There is something that we have, like a little bit of little gem, and then there's something out there that we can connect to, whether it be, I mean, nature is the greatest teacher. And also doing a course earlier this year, it was actually in agriculture, right? And what came up, which I've taken away from that, was everything that isn't nature is a stress to the body. Like a stress, not meaning stress like mental, but everything that isn't nature is a stress. Because literally, you were talking about, you know, like primates and all that, right? But also we're just literally complicated plants and trees. You know, like
the earth produced us, so therefore the answer is in the earth, right?
Absolutely. So there is something that when you just actually quiet down, sit with it all, and just breathe through that moment. Like, I've started this new thing that I was reminded of going into a cold. I went to a session on Colour Codes Bay because I live next to there, but I'm also a Wild Sea Women leader for Time Out at Long Sands. And have you heard of the Wild Sea Women?
Of course, I love going to the sea myself. Yeah.
Have you heard of the Ice Guys in Roker? There's a one in Roker, and it's just a free thing, right? And you must have heard of Wim Hof, haven't you?
Oh, of course I have.
Yeah. So you've done all that, right?
Oh,
so it all inspired from a lush lass called Hayley, who she started in Seaburn, which is near you, is it? Seaburn? Yeah. I've got family in Whitburn, and she started this group because she's a Wim Hof method instructor, right? And she started this group called Wild Sea Women, and this was like just over a year and a half ago, and it's just gone ballistic, right? Like, women literally flocking. Well, I think men as well, you know, like flocking to the waters. This is because water's a great alchemy, right? Which changes pain into power. And it has an intelligence all of its own, right? It's just literally like a body. And so I went down there the other night, and because that's another point why we're talking, is we need to have constant connection. You can't just do it once and then think, right, that's it, and then go away. It just doesn't work that way. We must find constant connections. So I needed it the other day because I felt a bit like absolutely just like out of my head, you know what I mean? Like, well, actually totally in my head and not in my body. So went down to receive. That's another thing, like us healers, coaches, mentors, whatever, you must connect in, isn't that right? You need to have that in your life in order to plug into this source, in order for you to give to others as well. Because if you do it on your own, like, you're screwed, aren't you? You know, you always need a connection. So I've learned that a few times the hard way with the burnouts and all that as well. But I went down there, and my friend Lorna, she does Colour Codes Bay leadership. I do Long Sands and Time Out, and she did this mindful session around a fire on the beach in the dark about taking your power back, right? And she just handed everyone, while we had our eyes closed, she made we have our hands out like that, and she just handed her all a tea light, right? And she was like, just when you feel like you're getting swept away in this, that, you know, busy schedules, lifestyles and all that, just light it and just say, I'm taking my power back. So what I did yesterday, because I felt it yesterday, because I'm constructing an online community with two other women, with this guy who's sorting out a website, and it's just absolutely foreign to me. Put us in front of someone who's just like in a mess, great. But websites, I'm just dying, right? It's a trigger for me, right?
Yeah.
And anyway, we're doing that at the minute, and I just literally got a picture. I've got a picture of myself, made myself a little altar, put me tea light that I got given the other night, just lit it, looked at me picture, right, and just took 3 deep breaths and just said, I'm taking my power back now, right? And I think I might do it for the rest of my life, because what it did for me was just literally bring it back to me in that highest potential of me and back to my center, because I was just literally, my energy must have been leaking frigging everywhere, because it was just like being robbed by me emotions and my thoughts, right? With all this just weird stuff, like awakening that subconscious beast, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so I just did that. So I just thought I'd share that because it was a really good little exercise. And I don't know if you've heard of the author Jeff Brown, but the way he talks about reality and humanity, right? He's just, you know, like there's a lot of spiritual stuff out there where it doesn't resonate with me, probably because of the way I've been brought up or the way I've been made and stuff. And it kind of intimidates us, where it's like too
airy fairy, too positive.
Well, that's a word for it, you know, and I don't not like it, but for me, as a resonant,
it's not realistic, is it, Susan? It's not realistic because there's a lot of pain in the world.
It doesn't feel real. Yeah. So what my job is in my life's work is to bring that reality, to bring it to reality, because you can be like up there having the high experience, and I mean, this is great, and some people must need to do that in their lives, but if you're not grounded and you're not like bringing it through into the earth, you know what I mean, like down in the here and now, you can be having an amazing time being like high but not achieving anything, you know what I mean? So 100%. Like you've got to have that roots and like kind of, you know, head to the heavens, legs to the roots kind of thing. And like there's a Lush saying, and I can't remember exactly how it works, but it's something like, in order to reach your branches to heaven, you have to send your roots to hell. And I love that. And I can't remember who said it. I think it was Carl Jung or something. Anyway, it's a good reminder. But this Jeff Brown, going back to this picture that I've made this type, because I do have altars. I've got a temple studio in North Shields where I do my yoga classes and my healing one-to-ones and all that. And people hire it out and stuff. And it is like very golden and it's very high vibrational, right? So it's like a freaking temple. So I've got that, but also this Jeff Brown, he says, what is it? He says, take the pictures of the gurus down and put a picture up of yourself and worship that. And I love how he said it, because it really touched me, and I felt it, because he didn't mean like, oh, just love yourself and take loads of selfies all the time. He didn't mean that. He just meant bring yourself back to you and not give your power to just something outside of yourself, because that is you as well. But also what I got from it was just like, that's just like what I did yesterday with the 3 breaths, light the candle, look at my picture. It was a picture of me in my ceremonial gear with like tribal paint on, all that. So I was in my highest, ready to play, do you know what I mean? Ready to give and ready to bring it, to connect to that source. Like quite native tribal thing. And I was like, yeah, so just bringing it back, because there's just so many thieves of friggin' joy and energy that are out there over these airwaves. This is like an interruption to somebody's airwaves, you know, of like maybe just stopping their destructive thoughts right now, you know, like, you know, they're just already stuck on a reel of not being good enough and being a shit and like all their past and experiences. And maybe, you know, in the hope that this is going to just touch that person at the right time. There's always a few, isn't there, you know? And it's in the airwaves, you know what I mean? It's like when people come together in a group, it creates a greater power, obviously, because there's more energy in a circuit, but it also breaks any shit power that's being sent out in order to rob you of your joy, in order to rob you of who you really are, in order to rob you of your peace, basically. And when that happens, we're not productive beings, are we? You know what I mean? And I still do it, you know what I mean? I still get that. And
me too.
Yeah.
This is kind of my theory, just kind of drawing on what you said there, Susan.
Yeah.
We're all human and we are flawed. And I think most people's problem, the primary tip of the iceberg thing, is they think that their life should be totally positive. They shouldn't have any traumas. They shouldn't have any pain. And because they do, because they're human, they kick off. And it's that resistance of what's happened, the suppression of the wishing the things weren't there, that's actually keeping them in the lowest form of consciousness. Mm-hmm. You know, yourself, shame, desire, that's one of the lowest form of emotions. When you desire something, you basically you're fighting a brick wall. The brick wall, you can't get it. But your desire is saying, I want it, I want it. It's that animal instinct. It's the lowest form of consciousness. The reason humans are top dogs on this world is because we have the ability to tap into higher levels of consciousness. Do you think my dog sits there and goes, oh, I've just barked at that lady. Why did I do that? Why did I bark? No, he just fucking barks because he's an animal. He doesn't give a shit. We have the ability to question our thoughts. We have the ability to have thoughts about our thoughts. Yeah, that's where the power is. So this is my theory. We are all just cells of energy, particles of energy in our bodies. This is just the physical vehicle that we're going through life. But the real truth is this higher collective consciousness, if you like, that everyone's connected to. It's like Wi-Fi. It's like, depending on what you make life mean, based off the perceptions that you have about your life and what it means, you'll either be tapping into the BT broadband dial-up connection shit Wi-Fi that didn't work, used to take you half an hour to log on, or you'll be tapping into the new 5G stuff where things will just flow. It's all consciousness. Depends what you're making it mean. So suppression is also just another word for depression. And I think when people are disconnected and depressed, they are essentially resisting reality.
Oppression as well. Oppression.
Yeah, they are in a state where they constantly desire that their life was different. And that was it for me. I was just wishing that it was different. I wished I didn't feel that way. I felt like I shouldn't feel this way. I felt like, why do I deserve this? I'm resisting. It's a form of resistance. And this is the harsh part, because a lot of bad things happen to really good people and they didn't deserve it. And this is not me saying that some people who've been through terrible traumas, that their pain is invalid. But what I am saying is that, like you said, the pain is actually the power. They have to figure out a way to allow that pain to pass through them, surrender to it, because that's their power. Their potential is hidden inside that power. And as a vehicle that's attached to this collective consciousness, the pleasure, the enlightenment, that's up there. Yeah, but right now you're wishing it wasn't there. That you're wishing the physical circumstance didn't happen. That's keeping you stuck. So enlightenment is a form of surrender. It's accepting what's happened. It's not taking the blame, but it's accepting what happened and believing that you can be healed. I think a lot of people who, I'm just going to say it, who I work with, like emotional eaters, they generally don't even believe that they can change yet. They are glued to the binge eating identity, because that binge eating identity has kept them safe from actually looking at their traumas and looking at their wounds, looking at the parts of themselves that they don't want to look at yet. And until they accept that, they will never be free of the identity that's keeping them stuck. They'll be in shame mode, they'll be in self-loathing mode, they'll be in desire mode. They'll never reach that stage of enlightenment because they haven't allowed themselves to channel that pain into power, because pain is still energy, right, Susan? Energy is energy. Energy can't be created nor destroyed.
It's all just
all energy.
Movie, man. But also, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but also I liked, I totally agree with what you're saying. And also that non-belief of being able, and also this unconscious realm that a part of a being's body is in with the emotional eating, behind it is something about being disconnected and not being loved. And it's something that just popped in while you were saying it, was from Russell Brand's book Recovery. And he said when he went and surrendered to saying, hang on, I've got a problem here, after being taken into many, many stages and like interventions, and thought, it doesn't really matter, does it? You've got to come to a point, and it's normally it can be near death, where that happens. And then there's this trust element of like, I give up now. I don't want to carry all this, right? And then he said there was a woman, an older woman, which is like it's a role that I'm stepping into now, because I think because of my age and experience in life, and of like this. It's just like a spiritual mother, right? So this woman, he said, and she was like an older woman, where he went on to the rehab, and she just went, well done for trying to keep yourself alive for so long, basically. And he said that it changed everything, because somebody actually recognized, and I have used that, from his wisdom, from what he learned from this woman, right, that somebody just needed to stop that there and just say, like, well done, like, you've literally found a way to keep yourself functioning as a human being for so long. Well done, like, and it goes back to like somebody just needing a love,
That's what we want. We just want to be loved and appreciated for who we are. That's the primary. Everything we do is for approval, Susan. Everything we do. Back to the tribe, the caveman days, we did what we did to get approval of the tribe. Our biggest fear is abandonment. That's what biggest fear is humans. Because implanted in our DNA that if we are on our own and abandoned, we are unsafe, we are vulnerable. So there might not be any physical danger, but if you feel alone, you feel vulnerable and therefore disconnected. And that's why your ego's attaching to reality, which reality is just our perception of what's going on. These are just pictures in our mind. It's the higher level of consciousness where the real power is. So people are attracting problems in their life, like you mentioned before about, your upbringing and how, it was going through, hard upbringing.
Yeah, I was definitely abandoned.
Right? Yeah, because you basically went looking for it, right? Because that was all you knew. It was pre-programmed.
You abandon yourself at the end. You want to try and understand and figure it out, the meaning of behind it all, which is like what you said before. Like your dog, my dogs are just, because they're totally present. They're just present.
They're in the real world. We're making it up as we go along. They're connected to who they are.
We also have an intelligence that can project the future, right? They're not lost about that, They're
not even aware of our existence.
The balance between the two. So if we didn't believe in the future, it wouldn't freaking happen, you know what I mean? But that's what we think, it's all down to us and all that. So that can really take way into the shit as well. But also, just like chimpanzees, I just love watching chimpanzees when I get too fucking carried away with myself, because I love how they have a hierarchy and they have this just structure of how to behave, and everyone just has a unique gift, which is another thing. Everyone needs to realize that they do have a unique gift that they were born with. But I'm going off topic again, but I'm probably not, but going back to that, everything you've just said as well is like when you trust and you surrender, going back to that pain power thing, which has come up quite a lot and was also mentioned before by somebody else, like that is the ultimate thing, like just going there, but also knowing that you can't do it alone. And you don't have to do it alone, actually. So like what you do for a living, what I do for a living is because that's what we kind of have credentials now, we've done it. So that's okay. But also it just gives you, like you said, one of those 9 reasons, that purpose, to be a human being on this planet. And at this time in our lives,
the war on consciousness at the minute right now, Susan. There's a war on consciousness. And I don't want to get too deep down.
I have been down the rabbit hole, and I have
the root causes of disconnection, Susan. What I mentioned, the root causes of environmental disconnection. The lockdown and the pandemic are ticking 5 of those boxes. Lack of connection from people, lack of connection from meaningful.
Totally, I'm with you on that.
From nature, lack of connection from a hopeful future. That's one of the main ones. If you feel like your future is non-existent, you are depressed by default because you've got no connection to the future. That means that what's the point? You're going to have feelings of, well, what's the point in this? Fuck this. You're going to press the self-destruct button. Lockdown is ticking all of those boxes. Lockdown is a fucking war on consciousness. I will never say
I believe that, the disconnection, but there's also been, I'm probably assuming that it happened to you as well, but there was also for certain people that I would call light workers, which I'm one of them, I'm sure you are as well, is like the systems that create the products, create the pain. And I found during my lockdown, I'd gone through a real depression by losing my previous business. That was like amazing, and going through a lot of grief and stuff. My son was in a car accident, and like for about 9 hours I thought he might die, and all this stuff. But then when 2020 hit, there was something inside of me that ignited me. And I was like, that's why I nearly died. That's why I went to prison. That's why I felt like I didn't fit in. That's why I fucking lost this. That's why I've been homeless. That's why I've been a drugger. I was like, whoa, this is the time. This is it. This is it now. And it gave me a fuel, and it ignited me, because then I thought, actually, when you talked about your war on consciousness, I'm the fucking light. I'm like me. And I was like, actually, then I had to realize and believe it myself, like I'm sure you have in your ways. And then thought, that's how I can get out there. Yeah. Because this is what I'm supposed to be doing for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? I've been whatever. And when others can touch on that themselves by, getting rid of them, that shit they're carrying, like turning that pain and letting it go and then turning it into power. But also what's behind the pain is just so much love. People are going to want to do it themselves. So a new project I'm on at the minute.
Ego again, isn't it? Convincing them that you can do it. It's either your fault or your responsibility, and it's not. That's just
you want to create leaders. You want to create leaders of their own lives, and also maybe leaders that are going to help with their lives. Because as you step forward by one step, you create a space for someone else to step forward. If you don't step forward, then you're stopping somebody else stepping forward. Actually, because we're all just in this fucking giant petri dish, as far as I'm concerned. So we may as well try while we're here and just show up. Just show up as you are, all your fuck ups, all your messes, and just put them down. Safe place, let's heal. And then you can just have a more enriched, deeper experience of your life.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you mentioned another author before. I thought you were going to mention an author called Jeff Thompson, but you said someone else. Was it Jeff Brown?
Jeff Brown.
Heard of Jeff Thompson?
Look. No, I haven't actually.
He's got a book called The Divine CEO. He's also got a book called Warrior. And during my difficult time this year, and I'm going to hold my hands up, I was not going through a traumatic period of time. It was more like an identity crisis where I had basically revealed a part of my identity that I didn't like, and I had to challenge it and vanquish it, if you like. And his teachings come out every single day. The growth is in the discomfort. The growth is in the discomfort. Anytime you feel uncomfortable, that is your ego going, no, run away, get out of pain. Hide, because it wants to keep you safe. It wants to keep you glued to the identity you've got now. Even though you can be depressed, your ego wants you to stay where you are, because new consciousness is a threat to that very fragile, wounded ego, because it's put up so many walls. It's so fragile and wounded that it doesn't want to learn anything new. It wants to stay stuck. So I tell myself that every day. For 3 months, I wrote it in my I've got a planner that I use, an affirmation: growth in the discomfort. So even though I felt uncomfortable, I was like, I am supposed to feel like this to grow. So anyone who's going through pain and trauma right now, if you suppress that, if you run away from it, if you wish it didn't happen, you can't grow. And that's not saying that what you went through, that it was supposed to be there. Sometimes it's not supposed to be there. Sometimes it's just an absolute freak of nature that it happened to you. There's nothing you can't justify it. It was just very unfortunate. But if you wish it didn't happen, you're resisting, and then you can't grow from that pain, because the pain is the power. The pain. But
it hurts if you keep hold of it. It just hurts longer. Yeah. Basically, it's just like when you do the gym.
Right?
You know, you're like it's like the same. I don't know what you're saying. It's like the grief you go through, waiting for something to happen, is more. It hurts more than the actually just happening.
Yeah.
Because when you're in the middle of happening, whether it's fucking, I don't know, like I've just started a band with some other people, right? And I've never done this before, and I don't know what I'm doing. But when I'm singing in that, and there's guitars going on, and honestly, man, it's just like in this pure isness, isn't it? Just being in the. So it just the actual pretense of some, like, thinking so badly of something that's going to happen is probably attracting it at a greater rate, and it's probably going to stay there for longer. But actually, when it actually happens, it's all right. And then there's power from that, because it's like we aren't just like, going back to my prison story, which we didn't really go into the experience of that, but maybe what I took from that today. But just going back to that, like, I've just realized how many prisons I've actually had to go through and still go through, layers and layers and layers and layers of in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most people are in a self-made prison. They are, Susan. Even myself,
in my mind, and being in one, actually, I'm like, whoa, because there was times that I was in there that I felt freer than I'd ever felt.
You had less distractions from things, right?
Well, life was simpler when you just accept your circumstances, and the power of what you can create in your own mind, and then how your body reacts to that. But it was such a great, rich learning experience. You know what I mean? Like, not many people get to do that in life. Actually, if you talk about percentages, I wouldn't know how many percentages of people in the whole population could actually experience that. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't traveled very far in the world. I've been to some nice places, but I always I went and did this amazing like a corporate gig, right, with men and women. It was one of the most powerful things I've ever done, and we all came into circle, and we did this wild dancing with expression, men breaking down. It was just beautiful, right? And one of he was a coach as well, and entrepreneur, and he was like, where's the best place you've ever been? And it was like one of these, like, opening, getting to know you kind of things. And I just was like, oh, well, I'm going to explain that in a minute. But I went here, just in here, because there's so many things that can happen in your life. And you could be on a fucking tropical island, right? And just being in the worst state inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you could be in prison and feel as free as a bird, which I have experienced, so I know it's true. Do you know what I mean?
It's your internal world that gives you the pictures in your external. I think when people are depressed, when you're struggling with their identity, and it's not their fault. Like, whatever I've said today, some of the things I've said are harsh, controversial, in your face. It's never your fault. You can't do what you don't know. People are going through trauma that haven't downloaded that data yet to even question it, so it's not their fault. But when I was struggling, it was like I was waiting for an opportunity to fall on my lap to save me. I thought it was going to be an external change, that money was going to find my bank account, that I'd suddenly get the body that I wanted, that I was going to get people to treat us the way I wanted to be treated. We are not in control of the external. And I realized that the external, the pictures we see in front of us, aka our life, is just a mirror of our internal dialogue, our internal beliefs. So you've said yourself, you can be on a tropical island in the best place possible. You can have £1 million in your bank account and you can be fucking miserable because you haven't internal challenges. Yet you could have nothing in the world. You know Tony Robbins? You heard of Tony Robbins, right?
Oh, yeah.
He was talking about, he's got an island on
Jesus Christ, man.
It's not part of what we're talking about. We're talking about God, he's it, right? But he's got an island on Fiji, right, that he bought, and he goes there often. I listen to one of his trainings, and he says the people there, they've got nothing, yet they're the happiest people he's ever seen. Why? Life's simple. They've got connections. They've got a connection to nature. They have everything they need and everything they could ever want. All the things that we want, Susan, is placed on us by fucking adverts. You know, L'Oreal, because you're worth it. Look like this unless you're not worthy. Lose weight, otherwise you'll never look like. It's fucking bullshit. We've created a bullshit society, and that's why we're all depressed. If we break that down and just reveal what actually we need and keep it simple, like you said, that you fell free and you've been other places and felt trapped in a prison. That it's all internal, right? The internal measurements, the internal. I don't even know how to describe it or articulate it. The internal beliefs that we have is what's giving us the external life. Only your external life will change. Your body, your bank account, your relationships, you know, even your mental health. I guess your mental health can potentially be external because it's
emotional health as well. Like your thoughts are electric, but your emotions are magnetic, and they both work together.
Right?
Hell, man, when you start and you just wake up and your subconscious is going on and on and on. And then if you start to feel it, then you're bringing it in. You're just bringing it in. But the whole thing is, back to what you were saying, is like there's something behind everything when somebody's coming to a point where they're just nearly at surrender, or sitting there watching, because there might be people watching you for. I get messages sometimes, people watch us for years. I didn't even know they were there. Do you know what I mean? And they're not going to say anything. They're not going to say anything in public because, you know, it's a massive fucking thing. But there's people always like watching to see how they can do it. And one day they may have the courage to be able to reach out. And what I would say is there's always love behind all of this knowledge as well, like of the well done, you've tried for so long, now you may feel strong enough to go there, then you can have this, like, almost like, I call it the divine mother, you know, of just like, it's okay, it's all right, you can admit your flaws, you can admit your experiences, you can get rid of your shame, and you can tell me, you know, it's okay, I understand, no judgment. And then people can just start really fucking getting rid of the shit that they're carrying around and turn it into love. Mm-hmm. I had this epiphany doing me little satanama, which is the same as this clearing your subconscious, right, that you were talking about, and having to go there and do it every day even when you didn't want to, right? And I had this epiphany while doing it, just saying, I'm really good at carrying pain. And so, like, I'm so strong and I'm so amazed. I can carry so much pain and hold it.
Yeah.
And I was like, actually, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm going to swap it for love. And you know what? My back went and I didn't do anything. My back, like my sciatic nerve went out, and I sustained a physical injury that I had to go to see a chiropractor for, who said my whole nervous system was like a bit like jumbled up and I needed help with that. And that was doing this little meditation every day and not wanting to go there, but that was in my fucking cells.
Yeah. You love this then. This guy here, Dr. John DeMartini, have you seen that? That's the sign of a well-read book, by the way. This is my Bible. News factor, Dr. John DeMartini, world's leading human behavior expert. And he said,
have you got it, Rachel? Audio book. She's got the audio book.
Oh, his book's better because you can actually write in it and write down your identity and things. But one thing that he says in here, every physical symptom, like you had back pain, right? It's actually on the cellular level from subconscious stress.
Subconscious,
physical, like even someone like let's say who struggle with IBS, I'm like, well, that's because you've got this self-worth issue that you're not good enough because of the way you look. So you're creating cortisol stress in the gut and it's causing IBS. I don't have anything wrong with you. You've got the wrong measurement of what self-worth is. It's subconscious stress, conflict. We're in conflict with our beliefs. And that's causing, like, people can stress themselves into develop. This sounds crazy hippie, madness, but they can stress themselves out into developing cancers, into developing pains. It's literally that deep. People will disregard it because they just listen to the mainstream stuff. Oh, it's this, it's that. There's so much deep stuff going on here. Like, it's unbelievable. When you start unraveling it down, you realize everything. It's
another discussion, all that. Like, it's like mad.
We're going to have to do a part 2, Susan. We're going to have to do a part 2 because right. But I'm already late for my next appointment.
I know. I'm sorry about that.
No worries. I had to roll with it because this was incredible. And we will
I've had a really nice time.
We'll discuss your actual like prison stories and maybe going back a little bit deeper because you've mentioned, you danced around some of the previous traumas and things. And if you were willing to share that, like what you went through, I'm sure people listening who maybe can resonate with that. Because I've got to hold my hands up. There's nothing ever seriously traumatic that happened to me. There wasn't. It was all my own my own compartmentalizing of my own triggers.
Well, that can be a really big thing, and that is a big another way of being disconnected because you think you don't have anything to feel.
That was it. That's what I used to say. That's what I was saying. Yeah. I was disgusted with myself for even being depressed. This is the words I used to say. What have I got to be fucking depressed?
Yes, exactly.
I'm dying and I've got everything I ever want, and I beat myself up so much. But that very belief was what was keeping me depressed. Yeah.
Listen, why don't we, right, if you ever fancy it, because I work mostly nights, right, if you ever, because I know you're very busy, we'll go for a dip in the sea.
I'm there.
Do you want to?
Yeah.
Let's do it, man.
I'm there.
Right.
Well, where you living right? Are you living in Shields?
I live in North Shields.
All right, we'll meet up anytime.
You South Shields.
Yeah. I'll not swim across the water, though. I'll get the tunnel. I'll go through the tunnel.
Oh, you can come this way. I can come to you. I don't mind.
We'll chat. Okay, so
why won't we do that? That would be fun.
We will. I will end the podcast right there. But yes, for anyone listening, we will do a podcast. And I hope you guys who listened didn't get too triggered today. And please just explore with what we said, because we said some challenging stuff today, Susan. And judging something and dismissing something without inquiring it is just stupid. Don't be that person. Even if you don't like what was said, at least go and inquire what we said and do your own research and then come to your own conclusion. You're genuinely allowed to have different beliefs to what we have. I'm totally cool with that. But don't dismiss something before you've listened to it. Okay? So thank you, guys. We will be back again another time.